Hey, welcome to part 4 of building your brand with LinkedIn. Again, my name is Ralph Nyberg. In this section, we're going to talk about adding content. Obviously, activity and participation is a big part of social networking. And so, once you have your profile developed and you want to start participating more in the LinkedIn community, we're going to have to start adding some content. So these are just some ideas and suggestions about what type of content you're going to want to add to your LinkedIn experience. So first off, when I talk about adding content, I really want you to focus on value. Okay, and what I mean by that is that when we start adding in content, it should be content that gave us value. And will give value to our audience and will bring value to our brand. Okay, so activity is important and activity matters, but ultimately you really want to focus on quality over quantity. One easy way to get the ball rolling in terms of participation and adding content in the world of LinkedIn is to join groups. You're going to join groups and you're going to be involved potentially in discussions with topics that you know about, with people who tend to have the same interests as you. So it's important to join groups because it makes it easy to participate in discussions. We're going to be, again, talking about things that are inside of our area of expertise with other people who share a lot of the same experiences. I keep talking about value, right? But, let's say, for example, I'm on a website and I read an article, okay? At the end of reading that article, I think, wow, I perceive value from that article. Those are the kind of articles that I post back to LinkedIn. The same thing if I'm on LinkedIn and someone posts an article and I read the article and I really enjoy it and I really see some value in it, then that's the kind of article that I'm going to share. Okay. On the other hand, those things that don't necessarily bring value are the kinds of things that I try to avoid. There's a lot of content writing and clickbait and things like that that's out there online, and so I make sure that for me, that I avoid that type of content, because I don't want that to be associated with my brand. Again, that goes down to the next bullet where we say, know your audience. Okay, who are you trying to communicate with? Okay, will your audience, the audience that you are trying to reach, receive value from what you are in fact posting? So it's a good idea to have some idea about, who your audience is and who you're trying to reach, and whether or not what the content that you add is going to add value to that audience. Now, for me, there's kind of two types of content that are part of my professional brand from a LinkedIn standpoint. We have, I have my what I would call like personal content. And, most of that would be related to things like, my YouTube page and, things that I do, outside of my specific job and my employer, but are still related to my professional brand. And then we have content that comes, from my employer, or at least from my occupation. I love my job. And so a big part of your professional brand, is your job. And so I will share information, general information from my employer, things like job postings. Okay, if there's a job that comes available inside my company that I think my audience might have some interest in, then I make sure that I post that. And again, so there's personal brand, and then there's also your occupation, your employer. That is part of your professional brand. And so I mix my content between what I would classify as sort of personal and organizational. Some people on LinkedIn, as you guys have probably seen, also, post some entertainment / humor type content. That's not really necessarily part of my brand, but on the other hand, it may be part of yours, and so I may occasionally post something that is humor related if it's humor related inside of my particular industry, but, I sort of leave that as optional. If that's your personality and that's your brand, then certainly that's what you want to bring to LinkedIn, because that's what it's all about, right? We're managing, we're defining, our personal brand. Now, the next thing here, skip the slide, going back again to where are we going to get this content from, and what are the types of content that, you know, we're going to put out there on LinkedIn. Top of the list there is organization. Now, again, as I mentioned before, I love my job. It's a big part of my professional brand, what I do. And so there is some content that, you know, comes directly from my organization. My organization sends emails really almost on a daily basis on things that we can add to our social media. I always read that content and then I evaluate it. If it fits into my personal brand, then I share it. And if it doesn't, you know, then I don't. But I also do things, like I said, post job postings for my company. I also, you know, post schedules sometimes for my upcoming classes, especially when I'm really excited about teaching a new class and things like that. So, you know, your professional, organizational company brand is important and also part of, you know, your personal brand with LinkedIn. Other things that I like to post from, you know, websites, you know, if I read an article and it's interesting, and I think, and again, it's always stopping and saying, did I get value from that? This is about quality, not quantity. So if it's something that I feel like I receive value from, and I also feel like my audience will receive value from it, then I'll post that. Updates for information about, you know, vendors, you know, whether it's for me, you know, Cisco or Red Hat or CentOS, you know, when vendors post, possibly it's a security bulletin, but it could be a variety of different things. But it's always something that I think will potentially bring value to at least a section of my audience. Social media, LinkedIn is a great source for content. You know, I read articles on LinkedIn all the time, and if I receive value from them, then I share them. I make that part of, you know, my professional brand. I also try to participate in discussions, you know, whether we're talking about putting comments on an article that someone else posted, or, you know, participating in a discussion in a group. Again, groups are, to me, really important in terms of maximizing your LinkedIn experience. You know, going out there and participating in those groups and talking to people who work in your industry and sharing experience and sharing expertise. It's a great place to learn. It's a great place to get noticed. And so I do highly recommend that you know, leverage that, join groups, and then leverage that membership in those groups. From an original content standpoint, you know, this could be like rich media. This could be websites that you develop, could be a variety of different things. You know, for me, I have a very active YouTube channel. And so I tend to post things from that from time to time to help define my brand and bring traffic to my channel. Some people like to write their own updates, blog entries, and publish themselves on LinkedIn. That's great. If you like to write, LinkedIn is a great place to get yourself published and grow that brand. So definitely, there are a lot of different ways that we can add content and participate in the LinkedIn space, and you just got to find the one that, you know, best fits, you know, your brand. So again, in summary, okay, value. Okay, I see, when I see an article posted on LinkedIn and I click on it, and let's say that you posted it and I read it, and it's just sort of content writer drivel, then, you know, that says something about your brand, and it also makes it much less likely that I'm going to pay much attention to you going forward on LinkedIn. So make sure that what you post does in fact have interest and have value. From an activity standpoint, they say at minimum, you know, you should try to be 2 or 3 times a week. You should be adding something to adding content to LinkedIn. Could be just simply participating in a discussion. It could be posting an article, a variety of different things, but try to keep your activity above 2 to 3 times a week. In terms of getting your activity noticed, they say that the highest traffic times on LinkedIn are 9 a.m. and noon. So, you know, you want to make sure that you either get it done early in the morning or right before the lunch hour to maximize the visibility of the content that you are adding. The other thing I would mention is sort of a pet peeve of mine, but I highly recommend you avoid politics. Okay, you know, you start participating in politics, and immediately you're going to alienate half of your audience. You know, whether we're talking about state or local or federal or internal politics inside of your organization, that's definitely something that you want to avoid. So I hope this helps. Hope this gives you some ideas about you know, what types of content and how to add content to your LinkedIn brand. and we'll see you for the next lesson.